on how to correct tenant payments. First, you need to find the payment that you need to correct. For this, you would go to the units and leases and then go to the lease register. There are many reasons why you may need to correct a payment. One of the reasons that you may need to correct a payment is because the amount was wrong from the bank. Another reason might be it was posted to the wrong account or the wrong type was used. Once you go to the tenant register or the lease register and find the payment that you need to correct, you can simply double click on that transaction to open the transaction window. Down below, you'll go to your Actions button and reverse the transaction. Anytime you're correcting a payment, you will need to do this process if you are correcting the payment type or if you are correcting the amount. When reversing a payment, you need to select the date that you want to use. There are many different reasons why you should use different dates. You need to think about what your closing period is. So when you reverse something in a past period, it could affect the owner, it could affect the management company reports. So you want to be very cautious about the date you use to reverse. In my scenario, this is within the same period, but I want to reflect it as a current transaction. So I'm going to use my reverse using current date. Then I click OK. And notice right away that PropertyBoss automatically makes this part of a correcting entry. So PropertyBoss knows if you are reversing a payment that is already on a deposit, it knows that this is part of a correcting entry. There are always two parts to the correcting entry, the part where you undo what was incorrect and the part where you re-enter it to do what is correct. In my scenario, I have a payment that was read differently at the bank than it was in PropertyBoss. So they have debited my account $50 because they read the check. They wrote the check out for $700 instead of $750. So now that I've reversed this transaction, I've undone what the original payment did, I can come in and click New Transaction and re-enter the payment for the amount that the bank found. In this case, I'm going to use the same date that I used to reverse the transaction, which is today's date. I'm going to change my amount to $700, which is the amount that the bank read. Now, there's one other thing here that a lot of people miss when they're doing a correction of a deposit, and that is we need to tell PropertyBoss that this is part of a correction. It doesn't know when you're entering the payment whether this is a regular payment or part of a correction. To do that, you're going to go down to your Actions button and mark this transaction as a correcting entry. Now it is noted on the transaction itself. You also have a place to put comments so that you'll have notes for further reference. If this was a scenario where I entered it as a tenant payment and it needed to be a subsidy payment, I would just change the transaction name, but I would still mark it as part of a correcting entry. Once you've done that, you will click OK. Now, anytime you do anything with a payment, whether it is correcting a payment, erroring a payment, or an NSF, you're going to go back over to your Create Deposit window, because the Create Deposit window is where you record for accounting purposes the changes that you've made. So what I want to do is go in here. You can see because I've marked them both as correcting entries, they show up under my heading of correcting. So I'm going to select both of them as part of one correcting deposit. And when I click on Create Deposit, note that my correcting deposit is a net of the two entries. This is how you want to do this to affect that net change that the bank made on your bank statement. This is how it will be recorded for reconciling purposes. And then I'm just going to select my bank account. I can put a note on here, correction of payment amount. So I know what that correction was for. And then I'm done. So again, this process can be used for multiple types of corrections. If you're correcting amount to be more, it would probably be easier to just enter the difference as a new payment. But if you are actually correcting the amount for less, this is the best process. Also note that if you have a payment that was posted on the wrong ledger, you also have the ability to go to the Actions button and move that transaction to another register. And when you do that, PropertyBoss will automatically reverse the transaction on the current lease register and post it on the new lease register. That concludes this session.